The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Then they came to Capernaum, and on the Sabbath Jesus entered the synagogue and taught. The people were astonished at his teaching, for he taught them as one having authority and not as the scribes. In their synagogue was a man with an unclean spirit. He cried out, "What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." Jesus rebuked him and said, "Quiet, come out of him." The unclean spirit convulsed him, and with a loud cry came out of him. All were amazed and asked one another, "What is this? A new teaching with authority. He commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him." His fame spread everywhere throughout the whole region of Galilee. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
There are a number of exorcism accounts in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And they all follow basically the same pattern in terms of the story unfolding. In the case of our story today, Jesus has just begun his public ministry. He's just announced the kingdom of God is at hand, and Satan fires his first attack at Jesus. And of all places, a synagogue, a house of prayer. This man's in there, and all of a sudden, when he encounters Jesus, Satan tries to take control of the situation. How? Well, he says, "I know who you are, Jesus of Nazareth. You are the Holy One of God." Jesus orders him immediately to be quiet, or to put it point blank, "Shut up, Satan." Why? Because it was believed back then in ancient times to know someone's name was to have control over that person, you see. And this Satan is not going to have control over Jesus, the Son of God. And so, in one more desperate attempt, after Jesus tells the demon to come out of the man, the demon wants to somehow show Jesus that he's tough stuff. He convulses the man. He makes the man suffer terribly for a couple of moments until Jesus successfully casts the demon out. The man is free, and all will go out to spread the good news about the power of Jesus Christ. People have asked me through the years, is demonic possession true? Does it really happen? And the answer is yes. I know of 2 cases. And the church has a remedy for demonic possession once it's been verified that it actually exists. Because sometimes demonic possession is confused for psychological disorders. But once the person has been carefully examined and screened, and it's been determined that demonic possession exists, then the church will reach out through the power of Jesus to heal this person. But Satan also comes into our world through institutions, through whole governments even at times. This past week, the Catholic Church was confronted by Satan in a very despicable way here in the United States of America. And if you're like all the other masses that I've done so far this weekend, the majority of you are totally unaware of what happened. The story begins in November 14th at the Oval Office of the White House in Washington, D.C., where Archbishop Timothy Dolan, who is the president of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. He's the head bishop, if you will, in this country. And he's the Archbishop of the Archdiocese of New York, which is a huge, huge population of Catholics. He was meeting with President Obama on November 14th, and it was a very cordial sort of experience. He recalls that President Obama said to him at one point that he believes that human conscience is sacred. And then the president went on to say to Archbishop Dolan that neither he nor his administration would ever do anything to impede the work of the Catholic Church in the United States. He admired the work of the Catholic Church. Well, a slap in the face occurred to Catholics in this country. The director of the Department of Health and Human Services, a woman by the name of Catherine Sebelius, who purports to be a Roman Catholic, put forth a mandate which will take place in the year 2013, next year, which will require the Catholic Church in the United States to violate its conscience and to provide insurance for its employees that will provide birth control, sterilization, and abortifacients. Abortifacients are abortion-inducing drugs. They produce abortions. Catholic institutions, as the mandate holds, the law holds, will be required to do so. That will include Catholic schools, that will include Catholic charities, that will include Catholic social agencies, and it will include St. Mary's Hospital, which is a Catholic hospital in Huntington, West Virginia. We will be required by law to do so. That is a direct violation of the freedom of Catholics in the United States of America. We are exempted from violating our conscience. The president said he respected human conscience and saw it as sacred, but he has allowed this mandate to take place. How could the president of the United States do such a thing? He deceived the Archbishop of New Orleans by telling him to his face, "I will never impede the work of the Catholic Church." Someone asked me after a Mass yesterday, they said, well, maybe the president didn't know it was going to come into place, that this mandate would be put forth. And I can tell you for sure, he most certainly did on November 14th. What's going to happen with regard to this new law? First of all, our nation is already in a horrible state of division. Our motto is E pluribus unum. Out of many, we are one. But we are not one. There is so much talk about the upper class and the lower class and the middle class and all other classes. But this is what's going to happen in essence. This law will pit faithful Catholics in the United States against their government. There will be a division. You will be called as a faithful Catholic to either obey God or obey Caesar. Which will you choose? Secondly, who is going to make up the huge shortfall? The Catholic Charities of the United States is the largest charitable organization in the world. We do more than anybody does on the planet. What does the president think, or who does the president think is going to fill in the void? Who's going to provide what we're going to provide? Who's going to educate all these children in our Catholic school systems around the country? Who's going to take care of the Catholic hospital patients? We already are in over $15 trillion in debt. Who's going to make up the difference? Thirdly, and any good lawyer will tell you this, whenever you open the lid on Pandora's box, the lid never shuts by itself. It only gets more open and more open. So if this law is going to require we Catholics to fund birth control, sterilization, and abortion-producing drugs, what's the next evil that's going to come our way? Will be forced to provide abortions in and of themselves? Remember, our president is radically pro-abortion, all the way up to full-term babies, for goodness sake. Will that be imposed upon us next? But the thing I find perhaps more despicable and deplorable about the whole thing is this. Has our president never walked through Arlington National Cemetery? Has he never visited the cemeteries in France where the bodies of our dead soldiers lay, who went on to Normandy and fought on Omaha Beach and the other beaches there? Boys, 17, 18, 19 years old, gunned down, ripped to shreds by German MG-32 and MG-60 machine guns. They didn't stand a chance once they hit the beach. Their bodies lie there. And why did they put their live bodies on that beach? For our freedoms in this country. So to take away the freedoms of Catholics in this country is a huge affront against the sacrifice of our military people from the time the first blood was spilled in the American Revolutionary War all the way up today in Afghanistan. These people laid down their lives for our freedoms. No one has the right, no president, no administration, to take our freedom away. So what are we to do? First of all, and you knew I was going to say this, we need to pray. But we need to pray like we've never prayed before. Making the sign of the cross in public like you're swatting a fly ain't going to get it from this point on. Coming to Mass when it's convenient ain't going to get it any longer. People who are Catholic must begin praying as Catholics. Attending Mass on Sunday is an obligation for Roman Catholics, not an option, an obligation. And when you come in these pews and you bring your children with you, there is power in that prayer. And then when you take that power and the grace we receive through the Eucharist here at home, there is power there as well. We have to pray for the conversion of the hearts of our president and other government leaders. May they come before it's too late to recognize the evil of their ways. May God help them to change their hearts through our prayers of intercession for them. Secondly, the president allowed such an egregious attack on our freedom as Catholics because he knew he could get by with it. You see, for years, Catholics have not been united. Did you know there are 60 million voting-age Catholics in America? But we've never voted as Catholics for years. I hear people say, well, the environment's more important. I need to put a green president in office. I need an organized labor president in office. I need this president or that president. But what about a president that takes care of the little babies? Last year, according to the World Health Organization, 46 million babies were murdered through abortion throughout this world. 46 million. 4,000 a day are murdered in America through abortion. Why can't we Catholics bring an end to it, at least in our own country? We're not working together. We're not working together. We're not praying together, and we certainly aren't voting together. There's a story which I found very humorous, but it was a very powerful story that happened a number of years ago in the Archdiocese of New Orleans. In New Orleans and its environs, 90% of the population is Catholic. There's a large Catholic school system there as well. Well, the governor at the time, and I don't recall his name, was really fussing and fuming with the Catholic school system in his state. He looked upon it as something like a nuisance that he had to endure. And so he came up with a plan to stop transporting Catholic school students using the public school buses. Archbishop Hughes, God rest his soul, he died just recently, was the archbishop at the time. And listen to what the archbishop did. He called up his superintendent of Catholic schools. He told them that on a given day, all the students were to be dismissed from the Catholic schools and they were to be transported to the steps of the state capitol of New Orleans. So there you can picture thousands and thousands of kids there, along with their teachers and their parents. There was Archbishop Hughes at the top of the steps. He sent one of his priest assistants to go knock on the door of the governor and asked him to come outside to meet the Archbishop. When he did sometime later, the Archbishop and the governor met, and the governor was stunned at what he saw. And Archbishop Hughes very humbly said to the governor, "If you would like to take away our transportation, then tomorrow morning you are welcome to educate all of my students." The governor changed his mind very quickly. But you see, that's what we Catholics can do. We have the numbers, we have the power, and we have the grace to do it. But finally, and the reason why we're celebrating this Mass as we're celebrating, why so many of our Catholic school students are here, especially that large one, his name is Archie. He's an 8th grader. We've just held him over a few years. This is the future of the Catholic Church, and we must never discount it. You know, you look at those little darlings at kindergarten and you pat their heads and you pinch your cheeks and you say, "Oh, aren't they adorable?" And they are. But they grow up, you know. They grow up as we grew up. And one thing I can tell you at our parish school, at your parish school, is that these students are taught the Catholic faith daily. We do not tolerate abortion, the talk of abortion in our school. We foster Catholic education to the fullest. And you know what? These children will grow up and they will have an impact on our society. But it all begins at that building across the parking lot. And that's why we have to be more vigilant all the time to put away the secular tendencies that creep into Catholic schools. We must make sure that we are truly and always a Catholic institution, because we can change our society. One of the classic World War II movies was a movie called Tora, Tora, Tora. It's about the attack by the Japanese Imperial Navy on Pearl Harbor back at the beginning of World War II. And my favorite scene, perhaps the most powerful scene of the movie, is at the end of the air bombardment of Pearl Harbor. A young Japanese naval officer comes to his superior, Admiral Yashimoto, and says to him very cockily and proudly, "We have soundly defeated the United States Navy at Pearl Harbor." Admiral Yashimoto is a blank stare on his face, and his smile is gone. And he simply says, "Yes, we have, but we have also awakened a sleeping giant." My brothers and sisters, we need to send a very important message to our president and government leaders who are radically pro-abortion and opposed to Catholic teaching. We must let them know that they can never take our freedom away and get by with it. We need to go after Satan in every form that he manifests himself in this country. Or in other words, all we have to do is what Jesus did. He confronted Satan in a man who was possessed, and he simply said to him, "Be quiet, come out of that man." Together as Catholics, with the Lord's grace and in his name, may we say to our government leaders, "Quiet and get out of our country forever."